Now I have the line drawn out. You can see the shape I have. Connection from the side of the sleeve, which is the fold line, to the edge of the vent. So this is the real line of the vent. If I add the vent on the 1.5 inches point before adding a seam allowance, can you see this is what I have? And from here to here is half of an inch. So I connected from here to here. If I'm cutting out from the sleeve edge downward, let's assume the vent allowance is not there. So this is how I will cut all the way down to the hem line. But because of the vent allowance that I have here, I will start cutting from the sleeve edge downward to the elbow length, downward to the vent length. When I get to the vent point, I will cross this out like so to this point. Then I will bring it downward. So this is the real line. So I'm supposed to cross from here, but because I need half of an inch of seam allowance to finish this area, I will still take it downward by half of an inch. Then when I get to this line, I will cross it again. Then I will stop on this line that I was cutting before. This is the line. I will stop here. Then I will take it downward to the vent point, to the hem allowance point. Then I will take it outward like so to this point, then cut out the remaining part of the sleeve. So what I have here, this line, this is the second method. This is the first method. So you can cut out any of the two. So I'll be tracing out the two lines with different colors of marker. This is the first method. This is the real line for the shape, and this is the seam allowance. So if I want to cut, I will be cutting on the seam allowance. Then for the second line, for the second method, this is the real line. Up to here. So if I'm cutting, I will not be cutting exactly on this line. I need a seam allowance of half of an inch. So I will be cutting on this line. So you can see what I have. The difference is the effect on the fabric. The difference is the shape that will come out on the fabric, but we will end up having the same result on the sleeve. So you can cut out any of the two shapes for the upper sleeve. Now I'm done with the construction of the vent area on the upper sleeve, and this is what I have. Then I will move to the under sleeve. Don't forget, before you cut out your pattern, transfer all your lines on the new pattern paper, or if you don't mind, you can cut this together like so. Guys, now it's time to work on the under sleeve pattern, and the first step is to measure out the vent length. So the vent length has to be the same value with the upper sleeve, which is 4.5 inches. I have it here. I took the measurements from the hem line. Then for the width of the vent is going to be double of what I have on the upper sleeve. So for the upper sleeve, I used 1.5 inches. So in this case, I will be using 3 inches, which is here. So I will mark out 1.5 inches point first, then the 3 inches point, because there will always be a reference on the 1.5 inches point. So I have to mark out the points. So I will square this line outward and downward. So guys, now I have the vent allowance drafted out. As you can see, from this point to this point is 3 inches. From here to here as well is 3 inches. From this vent point to the hemline is 4.5 inches. From here to here as well, 4.5 inches. And what I have here is the midpoint of the 3 inches, which is 1.5 inches. Okay, so the next step is to shape this side just the way I did on the upper sleeve. So at this edge, I will come down by 1/2 inch. Then I will connect the 1/2 inch point to the vent point. So with this, the edges of my vent is not going to be on a straight line, so I can clean this up. So you can see the shape I'm having right now. Now that I have the vent area drafted out, the next step is to draft out the button placement point, just the way I did on the upper sleeve. So the positioning has to be the same with the positioning of the buttonholes. So the buttons is going to be on the under sleeve, while the buttonholes will be on the upper sleeve. So from this side, I will measure 1/2 inch inward. So 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here. Then I will make it a straight line. Okay, so from the upper part, 1 inch downward. So that is the first button placement. From the hem line as well, 1 inch upward. So that is the last button placement. Then I will distribute the remaining space for the remaining 2 buttons. I have one here, then I have another one here. So now I have my 4 buttons. So now that I have this done, the next step is to add my seam allowances. I will be adding 1/2 inch on the sleeve edge, following the shape I have here, 1/2 inch at the front side of the sleeve, 1/2 inch at the back side, 1/2 inch all around the vents, then 1.5 inches on the hemline. Now I have my seam allowances added all around my under sleeve pattern. As you can see, I have my 1/2 inch on the sleeve edge. Then the front side of the sleeve, I have 1/2 inch downward. Then the back side of the sleeve as well, I have my 1/2 inch added to the vent point. Okay, then on the hem line, I added 1.5 inches as hem allowance. So the next step is to work on the hem allowance I have at the vent area, just the way we did on the upper sleeve. Now I will be eradicating the hem allowance I have on the vent area. This is the vent, and the hem allowance is from here to this point, from here to here, from here to here, in order to avoid bulkiness inside the sleeve. Okay, so I will come to the half of 1.5 inches line I drew out. I will extend this downward to the hem allowance point. Like so. So which means I will be working on the 1.5 inches area. So on the under sleeve, the first method I showed you when I was working on the upper sleeve is what I will be applying on the under sleeve. That is the only method that is applicable to the under sleeve pattern. So the shape I have here is what I will be eradicating. This and this square shape. So but before cutting this out, I will have to add my seam allowance. So here I will measure 1/2 inch from the midpoint, which is the 1.5 inches line. I will measure 1/2 inch forward, like so. Then on the hem line as well, 1/2 inch. Okay, then I will take this on the line I just drew out. I will measure half of an inch downward. By this side as well, half of an inch downward. Then I will connect the 2 points like so. So this is the line I will be cutting out now. So I will clean this up so that you don't get confused, like so. So now you can see this shape I have here. This is the real measurement and this is the seam allowance. So when I'm ready to cut out my pattern, I will be cutting on the seam allowance. So I will cut like this, then I will come downward to the other side of the sleeve. So this is the shape I just drew out. So now I'm good and I can go ahead in cutting out my pattern. So I will start cutting from the under sleeve. If you want to separate your patterns, make sure you transfer all your lines on the new pattern paper. Now when I get to the vent point, I will stop like so. And I will cut this out. I will take this down again and I will stop on the marked points. That is the part that I mark out with my marker. So I'll follow the line. You can see what I have there. Then I will take it downward and I will stop on the hem allowance point. So when I get to this point again, I will turn it, then cut all through on the hemline. And this is what I have after cutting. You can see the shape I have at the lower part of the sleeve. That is the part of the vent area. You can see what I have there. So that is settled. Then I'll come to the under sleeve and cut it out as well. So when I get to the vent point, I will stop like so. Then I will cross it. So I'll cut it outward like so. Then I'll bring it down to the hem allowance. Now I can decide to go for any of these two shapes, either the one with green line or the one with red line. Guys, now I will be cutting out the fabrics using the pattern we drafted. So here is the upper sleeve pattern and this is the under sleeve pattern. I will be cutting two of this and two of this. One piece of this and one piece of this make a sleeve. So if I cut out two of these and two of this, in total I will have 4 pieces. So that is one of these and one of these for one sleeve and the other sleeve as well. So now I will be cutting this off the camera and I'll be back to show you the next step.